Okay, looks like we are underway, and I am just checking to make sure that the health of the stream is all good. Whether you're watching this live, which at the moment no one is, and that's okay. We are looking to see the health of the stream should be coming in. Let's see if we can try to get something going. Welcome along. My name's Ilkat. This is Mindspan. I am the founder of Mindspan. Mindspan is kind of an ecosystem where contemporary psychology, education, and community meets, purpose-driven content to help with navigating life, defining purpose, finding ways to navigate life, orienting the compass so that we're heading in the right direction, inshallah. So the idea is first to get this up and running, to make sure everything's happening. This is the second attempt, actually. The first time I had, I was basically miming because it was something that I think I had the mute button on. I was in the middle of a cough or something. But anyway, what are we talking about today? The topic is about a form of a digital detox, and this will just be a short one. And the main idea is, before any of that happens, this is amazing technology. Back in the day, we used to have, CB radios or, shortwave radios, just even one-way radio, walkie-talkies and the like, the old tin can and string, listening to a door through a cup, various transmission media. And the fact that the internet has evolved to such an extent, this is a big deal to me anyway, and this is something that people do all the time. But it's interesting because I've more or less been absent from some of this. So if I come across as though this is miraculous, that's not a surprise. But I've got some extra, some angles here so that we can have some better engagement and we can work through these things with a little bit more, just a better show, hopefully. So the idea is to go through some of this, to have a sense of what it means to have a digital detox. But we're in the era of digital overlords. We can become slaves very quickly to the algorithm, as they say. And we all know, sometimes we deliberately modify these things, and we can sometimes lose ourselves in that. Someone the other day was having a chat with me, and they were saying that they've never been on internet or Facebook, or they're using email and things like this. They're not on social media, and they jumped on to, I can't remember if it was, they were watching some short form and swiping through, and they said, "Oh, let me see what this is about. Let me see what that's about." And before you know it, he looked at his watch and he was saying it's been 3 hours already. So it happens quickly. And if we're not used to it, if we don't unplug, if we don't pull ourselves out of it, if we're engrossed with this kind of life, it can have, maybe potentially devastating effects, but also beneficial as well. It would be very hypocritical to blanket label all of this as bad. But the important thing is that we recognize and we make deliberate choices, and we're aware of the consequences. So we're in an era of constant pings, messages going off, devices vibrating. Oh, let's pause there. Notification anxiety can be an issue. We might start disliking our devices because of the impending notification that might be around the corner, or seeing numbers beside an icon might trigger us in a certain way. And if we start recognizing these subtle signs of digital burnout, it gives us space to look at the toll it might be taking on our psyche, on our emotions, on our daily functioning. This hyper connectivity is at speeds that are sometimes faster than our attention. Our attention spans have reduced as a population. Our mental well-being can become affected through this. And one of my roles outside of this setting, as a psychologist, at the moment, my role is one of educator. So please be aware, it's important to know that no therapeutic relationship is formed here. If you're in need of critical care or emergency attention, then please seek the appropriate help with an emergency service or a doctor. 000 in Australia, and it might be something else, 112 internationally, or 911 somewhere else. Anyway, on with the show. We're going to do a quick assessment to see how digitally dependent you are. And I want to kind of go through the how and why of disconnection. So when we think about what it means to be hyper-connected, is this getting annoying, the flipping of the... I need some feedback, and I'm used to having interactions with more than just a camera. So whether you're watching this now and live, or whether you're going to watch this after the fact, drop a comment and tell me how terrible it is, so I can improve, so I can fix it, so I can be better at this. It's a separate format altogether. But that's aside. Where are we looking over here? Okay. Yep. All right. Stream health appears to be poor. Okay. It says I need to change the video resolution. Let's see what we can see. Okay, let's try that. We can change it. Can we change it? Midstream. Doesn't look like it. None of that seems to be working. Anyway, so we're going to do an assessment, right? We're going to do an assessment of how dependent we have become on this hyper interconnected world. And you might be up nearly 3 in the morning like me, and we want to unpack some of the benefits of being outside of the digital world. And this is an important element because sometimes it all seems nice, glitz and glamour. You've got all these lovely colors. It's a sort of Vaseline lensed world, 4K live streaming, maximum frame rates, surround sound, beautiful, comfortable chairs, very ergonomic, just to keep you there. It's amazing how comfortable we become in enslaving ourselves. So we want to unpack the benefits of the absence of all of that. Improved sleep, enhanced creativity, deeper real world connections. It's getting further and further distant from us. Having people, that we can speak to, actual people that we can speak to. It's hard. You pick up a phone these days, if you're not calling someone directly, if you're calling a company or a service or a system or for an appointment, or it's rare to just speak directly to a human. A lot of systems are just using, for decades now, answering services. So we've sort of been trained and become accustomed to not really demanding a human. There's a frustration that comes with that, and that's a separate thing. But we need to sort of set some realistic expectations about why it's not about abandoning technology. The tech is useful. The tech has utility, as long as we recognize that it's an instrument. But being able to intentionally calibrate our relationship with technology to ensure that what we're doing is good for us, that it's working for us, that it's useful for us, that it's benefiting us, that we're making deliberate choices about how that works. So the idea of having immediate gratification versus long-term peace, shifting perspectives from, a seemingly increasing digital world, and maintaining interaction on systems that are really inanimate. This content is going to become part of that one day. So develop a healthy relationship with it, right? Like anything in balance, with due moderation, optimizing, equilibrium, finding a good balance point. And it's not always 50-50. So balance could mean a good balance between 10 and 90%. 90% real world, 10% digital world. So here's a practical, cool way of thinking about how to sort of have some flavor, some taste, some hint of a digital detox. And that might be to maybe implement a no-go zone of where you take your phone or where you take your device, whether it's a tablet or your screen. Have somewhere where you don't take it with you. Have a barrier. Put a basket there, maybe some sort of a parking space for it, and just drop it off. Have tech-free hours. Give yourself time. Batch read your messages and emails and your other posts, and then end when it's time to end. So that could be kind of an immediate situation. So we might divide interventions and how we change things and our strategies based on a kind of short-term goals, or we can think of them as like first aid, to use a sort of medical analogy. First aid is like immediate relief, and then longer term treatment strategy or treatment plan as a sort of longer idea on how to kind of work through that. The digital environment itself, whether you have your favorite icons, your favorite apps right under your thumb as soon as you've unlocked your phone, that might be important to reorient some of those icons, to move them to another location, so that there's a little bit of discomfort. So you're adding space and friction and time and discomfort between you and what your brain is seeking to have that immediate dopamine injection. It could be unfollowing certain high potency shows or programs or podcasts or things that don't benefit you. Decluttering your virtual workspace, shifting around icons, removing apps that you don't need. It might even speed up your phone. Find time to use apps and technology that are actually going to be beneficial. If you're memorizing Quran, or if you're trying to learn a concept for school, or if you need to develop understanding and competency for an accreditation that's coming up for work, that might be useful to actually have that in your sight, so that when you do finally sign on, jump onto your phone or go onto your socials, whether you're looking up something on YouTube for longer form, perhaps that might be a way to reduce your distractions and focus on something that's actually beneficial. That by the end of that session, you can develop and say, okay, set a learning objective for yourself and be able to have completed some productivity about that in some way. Another one might be to think about, shifting around and changing the colors and the modes on your phone. And probably a lot of us know about blue light and red light and how that affects the brain and the suppression of melatonin. The blue light emitted from screens can actually suppress that, and so it can help to incorporate a red light filter, to have night mode on, grayscale modes, reduced resolution modes, and so that can help. So thinking about this intentionally, designing what's going to work for you, what might be useful in your scenario that's actually going to move the needle, that's going to have an effect. So how do we reclaim our focus? How do we get how do we take back our lifetime from our screen time? And we can, re-engage with analog life, with elements of organic life, reading physical books rather than digital PDFs. Just quiet reflection, becoming comfortable with quiet, learning to sit silently and embrace that discomfort, or it might become comfortable. You might appreciate that. Finding ways to desensitize yourself from some of this as well. Quiet reflection, I like prayer time. It gives me a chance to disconnect from the world, whether it's digital or real life, and allow me to connect with what matters. And it's a skill. It's a training process. It's a way to build your patience and build your focus and attention. So finding activities you might be interested in. Archery has been reported to be very sort of mindful and meditative in its nature, because of the focus and the connection between the body and the brain and the eyesight, and breathing. So there's a lot of incorporated benefits there. We want to think about the power of silence and stillness and how we can incorporate that into our lives. So, whether it's called meditation, whether it's called mindfulness, whether it's called prayer, find time to sit, stay still, reflect, and do that in silence. Whether it's in congregation, in the group, or whether it's by yourself individually. So that might be another useful way to kind of work through that. Prioritizing your own individual interactions, connecting with nature, getting back to what's real, and really just evaluate for yourself. Look around you, look at your desk, look at your workspace. How many natural things are there that you can count that are not plastic, that are not metallic, that are not metallic, arguably is from nature, but that doesn't require batteries, that doesn't require to be plugged in, that doesn't require, a screen, that isn't synthetic, that isn't artificial, that isn't man-made. So we're becoming more and more inundated with these things, and it might be just worthwhile to sort of scan your environments for what's actually creating that digital clutter, what's causing the hyper convenience of just having everything at an arm's length. And these ways of, we've built our world in a digital way, and so whatever we reach out for is going to be digital in nature. So it might be a useful way to kind of take a digital audit of our life and our space and our environment and our mental space and how we're working through that. And it might be useful to redesign to get back to what's actually going to be useful and beneficial for us. So prioritizing nature, re-engaging with analog pleasures, appreciating the power of silence, and strengthening real-world bonds, making sure that you have a connection with nature by assessing and auditing what's in your immediate environment and either deliberately purging or removing them from your life so that you can have some sense of nature connectedness. To create a digitalized life is something that just can accumulate. There's a lot of, AI slop is becoming popular and problematic these days, but just regular digital slop, can be inundating us. Overuse. Put aside all the radiation and the tinfoil hats and problems associated with EMFs, but just the clutter, the eyesore that it can cause, and the creativity and imagination and the imaginative thoughts that it's robbing you of can be, a sort of motivating factor. But if we have some sort of a digital maintenance plan or some sort of a movement away from digital life so that we're able to build in and design breaks into our life, then that could be useful. Finding ways to anticipate and overcome common digital relapse triggers and strategies for staying on track. So that might be something that's useful. And again, drop a comment about if that's going to be useful for you. I'm happy to put together some sort of a progression, a chart, a table that might be useful as a kind of a graduated exposure chart, perhaps for use that you can adapt to your own needs and add what bits and pieces, or even a checklist for an audit, for a digital audit that might be useful for you to help with managing the balance and attaining some sense of equilibrium with how much real life you're introducing into your life and how much digital life you're living through. But this was a brief one. Today I just wanted to share that and make sure we kick off on a good note and understand what this is. But this is an amazing and probably, it's never before seen transmission technology. When I was studying some forms of network engineering back in the day, TCP/IP was emerging. In the early days when we were learning about protocols, it was something that was special, that was spectacular. We would find ways to, maximize and optimize and increase the efficiency of and improve the experience and the flow. So it's interconnectivity was an emerging word at that time because cross-platform wasn't a thing. So we needed to find ways to code and build in, inter-platform, interoperating system, interoperability was a big one. So now all of that it's just a big mesh, right? It's just a cloud now, okay? And so when you think about the evolution of where this came from, where it is now and where it's potentially going, it's worth really reflecting on what your place is within that and how much of that you're contributing to, whether it's as, a content producer like this, whether it's a consumer of this, whether it's as a learner of what devices you might be using, whether it's what you're purchasing as a consumerist, sort of at a material level, how that's affecting whether it's the planet, whether it's the economy, whether it's populations, and how that's kind of working in our favor or against us as a human race. So it can go in any direction, but I'd be interested in hearing about your thoughts and your comments and what kind of people are interested in this. This is my first live stream ever that I've really published and probably kept online. I've got some older, scrappier ones that I might find ways to resurface at a later time when we get nostalgic enough to get by the cringe. But otherwise, it's about sustaining your digital well-being. It's about creating a personalized digital maintenance plan for long-term balance and clarity. Okay, and that's one of the things I want to do here is to build Mindspan into either a platform or some sort of a hub, some sort of an ecosystem where people like yourself can benefit from optimizing their lives. What does that mean? Living with deliberate design, working through your issues by understanding where they come from, whether it's biologically, psychologically, socially, spiritually, and incorporating a design into your life that you're inviting into your life with consciousness, anticipating and overcoming common digital relapse triggers. And we're not even talking about like the unhealthy stuff, like, like using corn or gambling or, whatever. It might be other behavioral addictions. So we haven't even gotten to that pathology yet. We're just talking about just regular use. Just looking up good old fashioned, vanilla videos that make us giggle or, brain rot stuff. So all of that is harmful in its own right, but it's important to start that journey in some way. Okay. That's the action plan. That's what you need to leave with. So if you've made it this far, I commend you and I appreciate you. Maybe this has been unbearable, especially earlier on when I was trying to keep keep looking over here and trying to posture up and making sure I've got all the moves right. But I'm looking to, build this something that's going to be beneficial. Build this into something that's going to be beneficial for you so that you can come back and make it a stop for your daily, monthly, weekly dose of well-being that comes together with real psychology, real spirituality, real understanding, and, real solutions that actually work. And the best thing that you can do about this is take some action. So with this one, develop some sort of a maintenance plan. Pop it into ChatGPT. Find some way to generate that. I know that almost undermines the whole rant earlier on, but if it means that's what's going to get you going, open a spreadsheet, start typing your cells in there, get some headings in there, and start putting some details about what digital distractions you're dealing with, what impact that's having on your life, what relationship that's having an effect on, how it's affecting your profession, how it's affecting your learning, how it's affecting your personality, how it's changing and modifying your character, how it's affecting your qualities, like how patient you might be, or how you feel when someone says we're going to meet people, or how it feels when you need to be in public, or how it feels when someone says, can you put your phone down for a second? How that kind of makes you feel inside. So we can look at it in so many different directions, but just at the base level, just at the surface level, do an audit. What's around you? What's under your thumb when you unlock? What can you move away? What can you move around? And what can you do to move through this for yourself? All right. I'm going to pause there and I will see you, inshallah, on the next one. Bi'idhnillah. Assalamu alaikum.